Okay, welcome to the deep dive. So if you're a foreign entrepreneur, maybe thinking about launching or expanding into Italy, getting those basics right is, well, it's everything. And right at the top of that list, sorting out your finances. Specifically, getting a local Italian bank account.
Yeah, that step, it's more than just paperwork, isn't it? It's really fundamental for actually operating smoothly, legally in what's, one of Europe's biggest economies.
Exactly. And that is precisely what we're getting into today. We're digging into this guide. It's sourced from ondemandincome.pdf, and it basically walks through the whole thing, the requirements, different accounts, costs, even name some of the better banks for foreigners doing this in Italy.
Right. And our goal here for this deep dive is really to cut through all that detail. We want to pull out the really important stuff, the key takeaways from this source, so you get a clear picture, something actionable without feeling, overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah, because whether you're planning to be there in person or maybe manage things remotely, getting this financial foundation solid, it's just non-negotiable. So, all right, let's unpack what this source tells us.
Okay. Well, what's interesting right off the bat is how the guide frames it. It's not just presented as a task you have to do. It's more like opening this account. It actually unlocks several sort of strategic advantages for your business in Italy.
Oh, definitely. It makes that point really clearly. Having that local account isn't just about, day-to-day buying and selling. It's actually a key to accessing Italian credit markets, potentially getting local funding. That's huge.
It really is. And then there's the compliance side. It enables proper tax reporting. And that's not just about paying tax, but doing it correctly according to their rules, which, well, that's vital for sticking around long term.
Right. Avoiding those legal tangles is crucial. And the guide also mentions it just makes paying EU clients and suppliers way easier. Cheaper, too, probably, than relying only on international wires all the time.
hmm And critically, having that Italian bank account, it seriously bumps up your business's credibility, its authenticity within the Italian market. It signals to partners, suppliers, the authorities, look, we're a serious player. We're committed to being here.
That makes a lot of sense, building that local trust. Okay, so the guide talks about different types of accounts. What are the main ones we should know about?
So it breaks it down into roughly three types. You've got personal accounts, think basic needs, individuals, maybe freelancers with simple setups. Then there are business accounts. These are really geared towards the daily operations, handling invoices, getting paid, managing tax filings, usually for, say, SMEs, startups. And then corporate accounts. These are for the bigger players, high transaction volumes, payroll, more complex stuff.
Got it. And it sounds like the guide really zeroes in on the business account, especially if you're actually setting up a proper company in Italy.
Yes, and this is a really crucial point the source makes. If you're forming a legal entity, like an SRL or an SPA, well, having a business bank account isn't just a good idea, it's mandatory. The source says it's required for key things like registering for VAT, hiring people, paying corporate taxes. In fact, you need it during the company registration itself, specifically to deposit the share capital.
Wow. Okay, so it's baked right into the legal setup process. You can't finish registering the company without it.
Exactly, it's foundational.
All right, so setting up a company means a business or corporate account is a must. What's the actual process the guide describes for getting one?
Okay, the guide lays out a pretty clear sequence. Step one, make sure your company is legally registered first. Before you even apply for the bank account, your business has to be officially listed in the Italian Business Register. That's the Registro delle Imprese.
Company registration first, then the bank. Got it. What's next? The tricky part.
Step two, getting all the documents together. This is often where things can get a bit detailed, especially if you're not used to Italian requirements. The guide lists the usuals. Valid passport or ID for the directors, the owners, and very importantly, your Italian tax code, the Codice Fiscale.
Ah, the Codice Fiscale. Yeah, that pops up everywhere when you deal with Italy, doesn't it?
It's absolutely essential. You'll also need the company's core legal documents. That's the Articles of Incorporation, the Atto Costitutivo, and the company bylaws, the Statuto. Think of them like the company's birth certificate and rule book.
Right, the business's official ID papers, basically.
Precisely. Plus, proof of your registered office address in Italy, your VAT registration certificate, if that applies, and the certificate from the Chamber of Commerce registration. Oh, and a note for foreign companies. The guide mentions you might need notarized, officially translated versions of some documents.
Okay, that is quite a checklist. Does the guide sort of summarize those key docs?
It does, yeah. It boils it down to passport or government ID, company formation documents, Atto Costitutivo, Statuto, proof of that Italian registered address, VA certificate if needed, and anti-money laundering compliance docs.
Okay, so companies registered, documents are gathered. Step 3.
Submitting the application. Now, the guide says this can be done in person or more and more online. But it highlights that a lot of the traditional banks, they still want or even require you to show up in person for verification, especially for corporate accounts. The newer, more digital banks are making remote opening much more possible, though.
That's a really key difference, especially if you're trying to manage this from outside Italy. And the last step, step 4.
An initial deposit. The guide mentions some banks, not all, but some, need you to put in a minimum amount to get the account going. For business accounts, they say expect maybe somewhere between $1,000 and $5,000 a year.
Okay. Register, gather docs, apply maybe remotely, maybe not, and make that deposit. Sounds like a clear path if you follow it. Now, the big question for many listening, residency. Do you actually have to live in Italy to open a business account?
And this is good news? According to the guide, no. You absolutely do not need to be an Italian resident.
True. That's probably a relief for a lot of international founders.
Oh, definitely. It really opens things up. The guide does clarify what non-residents will need, though. Usually a valid passport, proof of a legal address, could be your home country, could be Italy, that Italian Codice Fiscale again, the company registration papers we talked about, and those AML compliance documents.
So basically the same document pile, but your proof of address doesn't have to be Italian if you're non-resident.
Uh-huh.
Are there any, potential catches the guide mentions?
Yes, there's an important caveat. While it's not a hard rule everywhere, some banks might still ask for a local tax representative, or maybe even require one of the company directors to actually be an Italian resident. So it varies. It means you really need to check with the specific bank you're considering.
Right, good to know there can be bank-specific quirks. Now, you mentioned remote opening is becoming more possible. The guide gives some examples, right? Especially relevant for foreign founders.
It does, yeah. It kind of contrasts the traditional banks with some of these newer options that make remote setup easier. Conto gets highlighted. It's described as specifically for entrepreneurs, offering a fully online business banking setup, quick onboarding. So, yeah, sounds ideal for remote setup.
That sounds super convenient. What about N26? Is that mentioned?
N26 comes up, but the guide seems to position it more towards freelancers or maybe personal use. The implication, reading between the lines of the source, is it might not have all the features needed for a registered company, especially a larger one.
Okay, so maybe less suited for that SRL or SPA structure we were discussing. And Wise Business.
Wise Business is presented as a really strong option, particularly for what they call global entrepreneurs. Its big pluses are the multi-currency support and low fees for international transfers. And it's fully remote friendly. The guide suggests it's great for freelancers, consultants, maybe online sellers, anyone dealing a lot with international clients and payments.
Yeah, that sounds perfect for e-commerce or service businesses working across borders. But what about those, proper corporate accounts for more established businesses? Is remote opening common there?
The guide suggests that for those bigger corporate accounts, especially with the traditional banks, the Know Your Customer or KYC process, well, it's often more hands-on. It can still involve needing to verify things in person. While remote options are emerging, maybe through specific services or fintechs, it seems less standard for full corporate onboarding compared to simpler business or personal accounts.
So how easy it is to do remotely really depends on the bank and the complexity of the account you need.
Okay, let's just quickly circle back. Why is this account so vital? The guide calls it non-negotiable. What are those core reasons again?
Yeah, it's worth repeating because it's so basic. The guide stresses, first, it's often a legal requirement for registering the company and for filing taxes in Italy. For some company types, depositing that initial share capital has to go through this account. Then, beyond the legal must-dos, there are the practicalities. You need it to actually run the business, get paid from invoices, pay your staff.
And that credibility point you made earlier.
Absolutely. The guide really emphasizes that. It builds financial trust with Italian authorities, with business partners. It just smooths everything out. And for corporate accounts specifically, it also opens up things like integrating with local accounting software, maybe accessing local business loans that you wouldn't get otherwise.
It really is like the financial control center for your Italian venture. Okay, what about the cost? Does the guide give us any idea of the fees involved? It gives some estimated ranges, yeah. For actually opening the account, fees could be anywhere from €0 up to maybe 300. Depends on the bank, the account type.
Wow, that's quite a spread. Really need to shop around then.
Definitely. Then you've got monthly maintenance fees, estimated maybe 5 to 25 euros a month. International transfers, they reckon 10 to 40 euro per transfer. And ATM withdrawals, well, they vary. Could be free, it could be up to £2.50 or so. These are just ballpark figures, of course, but they give you a sense of the ongoing costs.
Good to factor those into the budget.
Hmm?
Okay, finally, the guide actually names some banks it sees as particularly suitable for foreign entrepreneurs. Who's on that list?
So, based on the source, 4 main ones get highlighted. First is Unicredit. It's mentioned as a strong option for more established businesses, good branch network, traditional services. But the guide notes its online opening process might be a bit limited.
Okay, so maybe better if you plan to be in Italy or have local support.
That seems to be the implication. Next up, Intesa Sanpaolo. The guide says it caters well to SMEs, mid-sized companies, known for having strong business financing options. But again, like Unicredit, may be less robust for fully remote setup compared to the digital-first banks.
Right, two big traditional Italian banks. What about the others, the ones maybe more geared towards remote?
Well, Conto, as we mentioned, recommended as ideal for startups, especially tech or digital ones. Its key strengths are that 100% online process and the fast onboarding. Perfect, the guide says, for remote entrepreneurs.
Yeah, sounds really tailored for that nimble, modern business model.
And then Wise Business is listed again. Excellent choice, specifically for global entrepreneurs. It really stands out for the multi-currency features, the low fees, and being fully remote friendly. Highly suitable, the guide suggests, for freelancers, consultants, or businesses trading internationally a lot.
So the real takeaway here from the guide seems to be, pick the bank that actually fits your business needs. Is it traditional branch access you need? Is it pure digital convenience from abroad? Or is it heavy international transactions?
Exactly. Your specific situation should drive the choice.
All right, so we've covered the why, the how, the requirements, the residency question, the options. Stepping back, what's the core message here for someone considering setting up in Italy?
I think the core message from this guide is, look, opening a business account is essential. It's a foundational step. It takes some prep work, yes, but it's definitely doable, even if you're not a resident. It means, getting that company registration sorted first, carefully gathering those documents, especially though that codice fiscale, and understanding the application process, whether you go in person or try one of the remote options.
And getting a grip on those potential costs, upfront and ongoing.
Right. It's not just about moving money around. You're a bank choice, you're set up, it's tied into the legal side, the operations, the taxes, everything about doing business in Italy. So knowing the account types, knowing which banks are maybe more foreigner friendly, that's key to making a smart choice that really supports your business right from the start.
It really is the cornerstone you build everything else on. Thinking about all this, and especially that contrast the guide makes between the traditional banks and these newer digital-first, remote-friendly options, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? How might this ongoing evolution, this acceleration of remote and digital banking in Italy, how might that change things for foreign entrepreneurs setting up there in the next few years? Will it make it dramatically easier, level the playing field, or maybe even introduce, I don't know, new kinds of complexities?
That's a really interesting thought to end on. It certainly feels like it's lowering the barrier to entry for many. And yeah, that could definitely shift the competitive landscape, not just for entrepreneurs, but for the banks themselves too. Fascinating to watch.